Hello there, Azer here. Today, I'm going to tell you guys what kind of game I'm enjoying here. Oh, I mean, in this 2 months period of October and November, there's a lot of great games, sure, and a lot of games that people might think of is maybe their favorite game at the moment. That's the probably the reason on why I cannot actually queue up for people in the Lucille in my main game. But oh well, never mind about that part, I guess. So what is my technically favorite game in this 2 months, I suppose. Surprisingly, it is a gacha game. Yup, a gacha game. Why? Well, you might think that, something like Duet Night Abyss would be extremely fun because there's no gacha elements in it, but it's still a gacha game, right? But the thing about that game is that it's pretty casual. You don't really need to go in like hardcore, lock in, and just grind all the characters you want. You can also do it slowly by your own pace. So I'm not worried about that game. I'm actually particularly more worried about a real gacha game where, there are seasonal stuff that's going on and the developers are constantly adding new stuff to it and fixing new stuff. And I think it's kind of strange to say this for once because firstly, a lot of people in the west or in the global side of things, they usually don't really consider gacha games per se, because they always know that, gacha games, because they have to be, made on mobile phones, it has to be a casual game. There is no other ways to go around it, right? Like it always has to be like, oh, you had to be brain dead. There's always an auto feature for you to just, grind whatever and do your dailies, and then maybe after that you can just log off and after you play some mini games, and yeah, that's it. But for me, this new gacha game is suddenly, you know, getting viral not because of the controversies it has, but it's because we don't care about the controversy and we just keep playing the game non-stop because it's just so addicting. It's basically called it's a gacha game called Chaos Zero Nightmare, by the way. Yes, you had to run it on a weird platform called Stove. It's a South Korean kind of a ordeal, I guess. That's why they have their own proprietary like launcher, but nobody cares. They use that launcher to launch Epic 7 as well, which, well, I mean, if you've played that before, yeah, I guess you probably know about it. And maybe other indie games that they wanted to, shove into your face to buy them and try them out as well, alongside with this Chaos Zero Nightmare game. Now let's put aside all those issues, right? And the controversies that is involving like one character that, somehow is considered as a bad taste for a lot of the South Korean players, and maybe for some, Chinese players as well from China. I'm not exactly keeping up with the drama and everything, but I think unfortunately this game is actually having a huge issue from, the whole story being scrapped from the start. So basically, when you are playing the game story from chapter 1 to 3, chapter 1 is actually noticeably darker than the later chapters. So that is where you actually see that the entire story needs to be rewritten, and it's not their fault. It's not really the developers who tried their hard best to salvage the situation's fault. It's more like they have to, do whatever they could in the short time frame because they had to still release the game because there's a deadline, all right? So because of that deadline, they unfortunately just had to release the game in such a bad translation and had a very bad story. But you know what? Despite that issue, right? Usually, a lot of other games, when especially if they are story focused, if they were to falter on that story part, they usually just fall off very, very hard, right? But not for CZN. Apparently, everybody still, in the global side at least, is still literally playing the game religiously. Like it's insane on how much, gameplay you can play in this gacha game, right? Like first of all, it is a game that's inspired by Slay the Spire. The developer got inspired by that game and maybe, inspired by other games as well that he played, and he decided that, you know what, let's make a good card-based, turn-based game, And so yeah, CZN is born. It's a PvE kind of a game that you had to assemble a team of three to go into chaos dungeons and try to make it out with a decent save file, which is always a gamble. So think of it like Uma Musume, that previous game that was pretty viral because it releases on Steam. Think of that game, but instead of horses and happiness and concerts and idols, it's all about trying to get out of the worst situation possible. So you are being thrust into chaos zones, or just zero systems, or any simulation that is related to it. It's basically like a roguelike kind of a mode where there is going to be random encounters with different scenarios, different enemy types, and different boss encounters or elite enemies that might take you down, depending on what modifiers they have, and depending on what kind of zone you try to tackle. And if you don't really prepare your team decently, like not enough leveling, or how having not good of a partner, or do not have enough shields, or you don't really have enough stats to deal enough damage to mitigate damage, it's going to cause a huge issue for you. But good thing about the game is, however, is that even if you were to fail a run, there is still a possibility for you to actually extract the save file from the failed run. And I think it's because of that, right? It makes it much more worthwhile for you to actually just YOLO and enter any chaos zone and just play. And it's pretty cool, considering the fact that a lot of people might argue like, oh, but you still need to gacha for certain characters in order for you to build a team. I mean, sure, but so far a lot of people are keep telling me that other than maybe the free character they provided for us all, since the pre-registration rewards, every single character is usable in the game. I think there's no meta tier list at the moment, except for maybe the best shooter character at the moment in the game, which is called Calipe. I guess it's probably because she's just so broken. That's why she's at the top of the tier list. But for once, right? It's pretty refreshing to see a game where every single character have their own weaknesses that you can mitigate by giving them proper cards and getting proper save data. And you can also, stack buffs from other team members or other characters, especially the 4-star characters, which are kind of broken in some way because they are given for you free anyway. So of course they are going to be pretty useful in the long run, especially like the healer they give you, which is Amika, and Ray, which is the another supporter void character, I guess. If you don't really have any void attackers, she's pretty decent as well on thinning your deck and helping you to draw cards or boost your one cost cards. And of course, you have every other support characters like Cassius who help you to draw a lot of cards. You have Nia, who is a guitarist who actually is very, very excellently fun to play with if you know how to actually utilize her decks. Man, you can literally pull your entire deck from the draw pile if you know how to play Nia, and it's so cool every time you can actually pull it off. And sometimes there's just a lot of methods for you to actually just try to utilize as much card draws as much as possible in one single turn, and it's just so fun when you're able to pull it off. However, it really varies depending on character and character, because different characters have different archetypes, and different archetypes requires different scalings and stats and attack bonuses, defenses, or several different kinds of cards to play on. Certain characters are benefited more from drawing more cards, and certain characters are actually benefiting more on comboing cards. Certain characters are much more beneficial by causing an enemy to have a certain weakness or status effect so that you can deal more damage, stacking the same status effect on the enemy continuously to destroy them. there is so many mechanics that I can, maybe if I wanted to, explain every single one of the mechanics, it would just take me an entire day, maybe, or even more. And it's just so deep, man. Like, sure, I mean, if you, however, it's not exactly as deep as games like maybe, other Slay the Spire or maybe even like Morrimans, but still, the fact that anybody can just pick it up and just understand, okay, this card works this way. So my character have these cards. How can I utilize these cards with the neutral cards that I might be able to save when I'm running the Chaos Dungeons? Oh, wait, this card draws two. Amazing for Yuki. This card draws three. Amazing for Yuki. This card allows me to discard the combatant's card so you can draw two other separate cards from the combatant's discarded card. Amazing card. You can literally draw infinite times with this card. Amazing cards. Okay, and there's plenty more of these kind of cards, especially when you trigger their epiphanies. Epiphanies literally change how you play the game. Some epiphanies literally transform the card into, okay, instead of just doing a healing and doing an extra effect, it would probably change it into a trigger card, a unique card, an initiation card, an outbreak of war, a lead card, or an exhaust card, and you can literally pair this with any character that has this same mechanic that can benefit from that certain card type, and it will just combo out and it'll just be an absolute cinema for you to play out. And this is the main reason on why card games are so popular till today. Alright? Because you see, combination of several different cards would change the entire way of you playing a certain character. You might think, oh, Amir is just a tank character, but she does not provide enough shields, so she's very low tier. But, real gamers will tell you, oh, but you didn't get decent shield cards for her. Of course she is going to be weak. But once you get Epiphany defense cards for Amir, whoa, she is going to just continuously deal defense percent damage continuously if you are able to, spam shielding. And at that point, if you are spamming shielding, she's going to auto attack. And imagine this, right? If you have a save data of two other characters that has a lot of shield cards, and they keep proccing shields and shields and shields and shields and shields, whoa, the enemy might as well just be dead. And you might as well just don't really care about healing at all because your shield is going to be, infinite. So you can literally play broken builds like that in this game. And no other gacha games out there is like this. So that's the reason why everybody is just so obsessed with this game, right? Not just the content creators per se, even my friend who is just playing some random games out there suddenly just told me, hey, this game is actually pretty cool. What the heck? I'm playing it until the morning 3 a.m. and I can't stop. That's how addicting this game is. So, if you really wanted to try out Chaos Zero Nightmare, I would suggest you to try to play the game now because there's a new Season 1 content where they fix a lot of issues in the game. They explain to you why save data is like this, and a lot more other stuff as well that you can actually unlock by just playing the game, and it's just amazing to play through now. Okay, sure. If there is a lot of controversies at the moment still about like how much resources you should put into a single character, or maybe you should always only max level a main DPS and keep the others on lower levels, but just play it on your own pace, right? Okay, and if you are able to get your characters, at least 3 characters to level 50, congratulations, you can now participate in the newest event because level 60 is the max level, and you don't really need all characters on level 60, by the way, like Honkai Star Rail. No, you don't really need to do that because it's pretty expensive to invest into your character. However, as long as you are able to, farm some memory fragments here and there, level them up to level 3, and maybe increase the potentials of your characters, and maybe, increase their copies, it's actually going to be fine. And yeah, I think the most important takeaway that you can get from this gacha game is basically that because the balance of the game is literally alterable or changeable according to your save data, you do not need to rely on the developers so much on balancing the characters. You don't have to wait until the developer suddenly just announce, oh, sorry guys, this character has been trashed for 2 years. So we gotta, buff them up somehow, because we just realized our latest gacha character is power creeping our previous characters. No, in this game, even for a character like the latest banner character, which is called Yuki, sure, she might not be the most powerful AoE character out there in comparison to someone like Calipe or maybe other AoE or single target characters, but it's fine. I found ways to actually mitigate, her low scalability of her damage by just using Ray, and then use Nia to just pull every single card out of the deck and just cycle the entire deck again, and also give her a counter attack um, weapon and a counter attack equipment so that she can always hit the enemy whenever they hit us, and in this way she is going to be able to consistently deal DPS despite being an AoE character. And in this way, she is able to deal single target damage that can target every enemy's weaknesses, even despite having low damage AoE cards. And the epiphanies changes a lot of stuff in this game. And it just literally, can transform your deck from, tier 5, maybe the best to tier 3 to becoming a tier 1 or tier 0 kind of playstyle. And that is what I like about this game. That is why a lot of global players or a lot of players who is not caring about the whole controversy from South Korea players, whining about the whole cuckoldry situation of Owen, whatever, right? Like, okay, that is a minor issue. The fact is that building the deck is just way more fun than whatever the controversy is, and hence why the game is still successful even amid all those controversies. Yeah, and hence why I suggest everybody to at least try out Chaos Zero Nightmare before the whole fad goes away again, just like how what happened to the horse game, I guess. But hey, that's just my opinion. That's much just my review of the game, and if you like my content, you can leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the future, I guess. I'll see you next time then. Sayonara.